Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to our next webinar as part of our Real Estate Insider series. Today we're chatting with Tom Rawson. I'm just going to bring him up on stage. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. And as always, let us know in the chat box where you're tuning in from today, your name, where in New Zealand you are, and we'll crack into things shortly. G'day, Tom. How you doing?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Good. You've got the nice suit on today, mate. Looking very sharp.
Tried for you, mate. For you and the crew. I've got a bit of an awkward setup going on here. I've got my office outside, watching it live, pulling funny faces in my window. So, yeah.
Good.
Funny.
Well, hopefully a few distractions. Hopefully.
We're just moving the screen away.
There they are.
Moving the screen away now so that they don't annoy me too much, which is good.
Awesome. We've already got a few people saying g'day in the chat. Hi, Kim, Sam, Adam, Lily. And as always, guys, we will have plenty of time for Q&A towards the end of the session. So any questions that pop up throughout, please put them in the chat box and we'll address them when we get to the Q&A part. Alrighty, it's 11:01. Shall we get started? So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the next webinar as part of our Real Estate Insider series. Today, it's our absolute pleasure to welcome on Mr. Tom Rawson. Tom is the branch manager and business owner of Ray White AT Realty, with more than 100 staff spanning over 4 offices throughout Manukau, Manurewa, Mangere and Mangere Bridge, making it one of New Zealand's largest Ray White franchises. As an agent, Tom quickly became one of Ray White's top performers, completing a transaction every 4 days and achieving over $500 million in sales. Today, the plan is to discuss 3 attributes every real estate agent needs to know in order to thrive in today's competitive market. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you, mate. Quite a good intro there. I'll get you to do that all the time if you could.
It didn't take me long to put that one together, mate. There's plenty to talk about, so easy peasy. Look, we've got a whole bunch of questions to rip in through today. But before we do that, it'd be good if you could give the audience a bit of context about yourself, your journey in real estate, and how you've sort of gone from salesperson to now co-owner of Ray White AT Realty.
Yeah, sweet as. So I've been in the industry 9 years. Before this, I was in electronic security and general security. I had a security guarding company as well as being a private investigator myself. So I've probably met some of the people that are watching this. I probably might have followed them around Auckland or anywhere in the North Island through my previous profession. But yeah, security is kind of a bit of a background for me prior to real estate. 9 years ago, got into real estate. Adam rang me up. Adam Thompson, who's my business partner within AT Realty, rang me up and said, "What are you doing now you're back in Auckland?" And at the time I was watching Suits with Harvey Specter. And I was actually on the website for the Auckland Law School at the time, trying to figure out if I had the grades to get in. And you know what it's like, you already know the answer. No, you don't have the grades to get in. And so, yeah, got the call from Adam. I remember being at home. And he said, "What are you doing now you're back in Auckland?" And I said, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, why don't you give real estate a go?" To which I said, "Yep." And he said, "If you're any good at it, you'll make more money than lawyers anyway." And so that kind of got me going on it. So 2014, April the 1st was my first day in the office, and got my license on July 17, 2014, which is 2 days after my birthday. So I vividly remember it, and been going ever since. I entered the industry engaged, and then I wasn't engaged anymore. And I took a year off any form of relationships effectively and just put my head down and got stuck into real estate. Now I've got 2 kids over here. And so, yeah, happily married, my wife, Anna, my 2 boys, Freddie and Jagger. And now, life looks quite a lot different to what it did 9 years ago.
Awesome. It's always nice hearing, your people's stories. And a lot of the time we do see that real estate wasn't the obvious choice, or is a bit of an unexpected turn. And I bet now looking back on it, pretty grateful for that call from Adam.
Yeah, I actually was keen on real estate. I moved out of Auckland. I went down to Papamoa. I had a business up in Auckland and I sold it, a security business, and sold it and went down to Papamoa. And I went down there with a deposit outside of the deposit I used to buy a house in Papamoa. But then I got into a bit of strife with an ex-business partner and ended up spending my deposit on a bit of a legal battle, which hence why I was probably watching Suits a bit too much, trying to get some inspiration for that. And so I came back to Auckland. My partner at the time, she hated Papamoa. She was from Parnell, and that's kind of worlds apart in terms of speed. And so, came back to Auckland. We didn't work out. And it's definitely worked out getting into real estate. It's a bit of a passion for me, and I think it comes across in what I do. It's one of those things I never turn off from real estate. Property excites me, and now it's the people within the industry that I get to meet and talk to. So it's been bloody good. I've appreciated the opportunity getting into it, and there's a lot of people out there that have supported me to get to where I am today.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Awesome. That's great to hear. Cool. We'll cracking in. We'll get into some of these questions we have lined up for you. And first one, we're going to start off with a ripper. As one of Ray White's top performers, can you share with us some of your key strategies and actions that you implemented to achieve those sales numbers?
Yep, I can. So I was approachable. I saw your advertising come out for this webinar and started getting screenshotted it from a few people. And so I actually asked them to answer these questions for me, which has been quite cool. So I said, hey, look, what was it in the past that, was good about what I did? And one of the first thing that came across was to be approachable. So I talk to anyone, from someone out on the street here to someone in the government and all the way in between. I'm the same person. So that's been quite cool as well. And like people save my number when I talk to them, which also makes it easier for me to ring them back. And I save their number. So it's quite a, it's a real simple thing, but just to be able to communicate with people. I've got massive drive and ambition. I was just chatting to a couple of our team before, and I just said, my ambition is far greater than my bank balance allows me to execute. And so all the things I want to do, I just can't afford to do. Accountability is another one that came through multiple times. So I hold myself accountable, and that's in delivering what I've got to do now. But when I was a salesperson, I walked in there, I said what I could do for them, and I was honest around that, and then I delivered. And I think we've gone away from that a little bit. So people will overpromise and underdeliver. Where I was honest. I went in and said, look, it might not be what you want to hear, but this is what I believe, and this is what I can do. And if you want to work with me, then that's cool. If you don't, then that's cool too. And I was able to communicate well with them. One of the most important things, though, Jake, which I think, again, is a little bit lost, is actually just giving a shit. And I know we're allowed to swear in here. Hopefully there's no kids around being school holidays, but giving a shit is a big thing. You've actually got to care. Like, you can rehearse your scripts, dialogues. I can get a better haircut, a better suit, whatever, turn up in a nicer car or not the nice car, whatever. But if I don't give a shit about getting a result for the client, the customer, then that really shines through. And so that's important as well. And it's something that you can't teach, but you can slowly get there. I have fun. I have fun at work. I have fun with my team. I have fun with my vendors. I'm very transparent. So my vendors knew not to call me on a Wednesday night, because that was the time where I had put aside to not answer their calls. So I was transparent about that at the start of the process. Thursday morning, hey, got a bunch of calls come through where they wanted to talk to me on a Wednesday night. I believe in health as well, and a bit of balance. And it's the one thing in the industry that we all struggle with, is getting the right balance. And so it's the one thing that I'm trying to achieve. And also, when I started out, I didn't have a financial foundation as such. Like I'd come back from Papamoa, and so I didn't know what I was doing. But now I've got a bit of a grounding. So I've got a family home, and I've got a couple of rental properties, and that allows me to make decisions based on long-term visibility rather than short-term need or greed. And so I see people in the industry making decisions based on needing the instant commission rather than a 10-year relationship or 30-year relationship. And so my train of thought has always been, do the right thing, and then the money will come later. And like, I'll openly say that to people. Look, I don't mind. I'm never going to let the money get in the way of me doing the right thing. And then ultimately the money flowed in behind. So it's on the bottom of every one of my emails. Treat everyone the way you want to be treated. And I think people respect that. And then they're happy to do business with you after that. And so that's, pretty critical, I think.
Yeah, awesome, mate. All those parts there you've shared are bang on. I think you've touched a lot on the communication, the approachableness, giving a shit, and treating other people kindly and fairly, and all of those sort of link back to real estate. It's a people business, and you've got to be transparent. You've got to be honest, and obviously that leads to success if you can have those attributes throughout. So, mate, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to ask you now just to narrow it down to your top three, and top three, less so attributes or personality traits, but more techniques and strategies that will be helpful in the market as it is currently, that agents can implement.
Yep, sweet. I was able to be found, and that's a big one. So if someone's looking for a real estate agent, how do they find you? Like whoever it is that's sitting at home watching this or in their office watching it, how do people find you? I was able to be found pretty easily. I tried to become a household name. And so that was important. I spent upwards of 6 figures every year on branding myself outside of Ray White and what Ray White does for us. I did it for myself. So I did radio advertising, social media, bus backs, print, absentee mail. I did everything. So it was more shit more often, was a bit of a strategy back in the day. And trying to come up with a bit of a jingle, like I had no ties, just wins, because I hate the tie. And so I had little things that kind of helped, and it was repetitive, like I was always using the same thing. I didn't call myself a real estate agent. I called myself a trusted real estate advisor. I wanted to set myself apart from the competition. And I think I was able to do that. Social media is a big one, like everyone lives on it. So you've got to be there. And if you're consistent with it, then I think you can get cut through there. You've also got to imagine what's in it for whoever's receiving whatever it is you're putting out there. So if you're putting out just sold, number one, I'm the man, all good for you, but pat yourself on the back and put something else out there that's of value. So what's in it for someone if you say you're the number one, and what does that even mean anyway? So social media was a big one. I targeted investors to get started. I had no grounding in South Auckland in terms of any track record. So I targeted people that didn't know that. And I targeted people that lived outside of the area. So I built up a big absentee database and worked with them. So I used to be called Mr. Otara. I used to go door knocking in the area, and then I started targeting the investors in the area, and then I started basically selling other investment properties for people. And another one, just to add into it, is network. So I've already touched on it. Every number I ever dialed, I saved. Every number that I ever received a call from, I saved. So my phone's full of numbers, and I can ring people now. And I made a point of it recently in one of our call sessions here, just ringing people I hadn't spoken to for 6 or 7 years, and they had my number saved. So being worthy, I suppose, of being in someone else's phone book is important as well. So those are kind of a few things. there's 4 things I've kind of shared there. What we try and do with our team, and I don't want to be too specific with it, is Adam got to the top within Ray White, and I've got to the top within Ray White as well. And what we try and do is share our knowledge with our immediate teams to get all our guys to the top as well. So, yeah, there's a fair bit in it, but it's, yeah, I mean, I feel for some of the people out there that don't have any leadership that's showing them how to get to the top, and that can be quite hard. But yeah, no, we're really happy to share specific techniques with our team to get them there. And we also watch. Like, I'm on the ground, I'm in the office today, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and listening to like their scripts and dialogues and just tweaking. And so, like, I'm a personal trainer, I suppose, to half the crew out here.
Yeah, awesome. And look, I can absolutely attest to that. I've visited numerous, or 3 out of the 4 AT Realty offices, and the vibe every time you walk in is awesome. Adam and Tom very willing to share, and I think the ability to care about, like you said, give a shit about your clients, but also give a shit about your team members, and help them get to the top is crucial. And those things you touched on, Tom, they're really all about adding value to the end client, because people engage with value, they interact with that. And, if you're providing value, that's going to hopefully turn into more listings, more leads down the track as well. Mate, do you have any sort of war stories or examples, especially in those early days, where you did a bit of marketing or a bit of advertising or something, and you were like, oh, geez, that really worked? Something like that,
Yeah.
that really was a bit of a flick switching moment.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a ton of stories. Could go on for hours with the things I've done. Like, to get to that level of sales that I've done, I've sold hundreds and hundreds of homes and met thousands of people, and I've sold property for gangs, all the way through to working with the government, and everything in between. So, jumping a fence of a firebombed property in Otara to appraise it. Walking through the firebombed area over a back door to a ransacked house that had been set up as a grow room, and then going through that process and selling that property. That was quite interesting. Turning up to property in the middle of nowhere and jumping out of my car, and they go, oh, good to see you, Tom, and I'm glad you're not wearing a tie. I went to a wedding in Taupo, and I was buying a drink at the bar, and this guy randomly next to me goes, Tom, can I buy you a drink? And I was like, oh, hey, I'm Tom, like, how do I know you? And he goes, oh, I don't know you, but I work at Foodstuffs, and we listen to The Sound, which was a radio station I advertised on. He goes, I feel like I know you already just from your advertising, because I was continuously evolving my radio advertising. And he said, you're a GC, and I want to buy you a drink and just talk to you. And if I ever sold, I've never met you, but now I have, and I already feel like I knew you. So that stuff is pretty cool. Just being trusted enough to be able to be referred as well was a big thing, so people were confident that they could just say, hey, look, Tom's going to get in touch with you, and then they never had to worry about it. That's probably been the biggest thing that's come out of all the work that I've done to try and mold who I am as a person, is that people can just go, look, Tom's onto it now, or here's Tom's number, and done. So people now trust us in a different scope. So now being a branch manager, leading teams, people come across and go, look, I just want to be with you to take me to the next level. So just having that trust, the track record now, and social proof. We've got 120 odd blooming walking stories of what we do as well now, which is awesome. So I just ask people to ask our team, what is it we do different to other people? And our team now become our biggest recruiters, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I guess that sort of follows on well to what I was going to ask next, around similar examples that you might have around your leadership and your coaching, how that's created success for your team members. Any sort of anecdotes on that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm lucky that I've been there and done that, and I do feel for some people out there that are being led by people that haven't been there and done that. And it's quite hard. I mean, in saying that, though, you look at other professions, like we follow the All Blacks in New Zealand obviously pretty closely, and I look at all the great coaches that they've had. And not every single one of them was the best player on the field in their given day, but they evolved into the greatest coaches. Steve Hansen, amazing guy. Graham Henry, amazing guy. And then now, like, you got Scotty Robertson coming in, who was also a good player, and then now is an All Black. So, I mean, I'm lucky, I suppose, that I've been there, done that in a way. I've also got life experience outside of just real estate too. So, yeah, I mean, I'm here. Like, I think the biggest thing is that, in terms of evolving people, it's being available. So I say to the team, like, I'm always available. I'm typically in the office at 6:45, upstairs at our gym here. So we got a gym at our Manurewa office. And so I'll be upstairs in the gym. I'll be at the other end of the building in our protein bar at 8:30, having a protein shake with a couple of the team. And then I'm into it, So I'm here, I'm always available. My wife kind of hates it because I'm probably too available. But yeah, being available is a big thing on the weekends, and it's some of the things that are big dramas can be solved pretty quickly just with fluidity, just being there, being present. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the fears of growth is just not knowing who can take you there. So aligning yourself with people that can take you there. So, like, I continuously am out there looking for personal development myself. I don't think I know it all. I know I don't know it all. And so I'm always looking for growth myself. So with myself and Adam, we go and train everywhere. Like, we go over to Australia 4 times a year to see Josh Fegan in a small situation there. We go to Eric, we go to all of these things that people kind of skip on. And I think it's silly that people don't take the opportunities that get put in front of them, that people provide. You kind of just got to just keep showing up.
Yeah, awesome, mate. That's really nice to hear. Really refreshing as well. That even when you've been there, done that, you've got the experience under your belt, but you're still continuing to evolve and evolving for the sake of yourself, but also so you can pass that knowledge on to your team, which is really nice to hear. We're going to change tack slightly now, and I'm going to ask you, in the current market, what are some of the key obstacles that sales people are facing, and what can they do to overcome those obstacles?
I think with the evolution of social media, everyone's wanted to be the man. And they cruise around thinking their shit doesn't stink. And I think that's a real negative on our industry. I think we've got to look back at what happened before you came along. So I'd say a lot of the people watching this, and I know a lot of the industry, have been in the industry like sub 5 years. And so before 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years ago, people were still transacting property. Yeah, things were different, but property still transacted. So we haven't reinvented the wheel. We've maybe made a few viral videos and done that kind of stuff. But I think there's been we've got to take a lot of learnings of the elder statesmen in our industry, and just chill out a bit in terms of the egos within the industry. I think that's a big one. I think there's a lack of consistency. So people try something, it doesn't work, they bugger off and try something else. They've got a new logo, then they've got another new logo, they've got a new website, they've got a new haircut, whatever it is. It's like, just try a little bit, try for a little bit longer. And I reckon you're just around the corner probably from that breakthrough that you need. And then if you've been trying and it doesn't work, or you don't feel like you've got the support around you to make the change, then you're the only one in control of making that change. And it can be change the diet, change the office, change the brand, change the location, change something, change your partner, whatever. Like, change something. Like, if you're just banging your head against the wall expecting something different to what you've already been doing, you're not getting the results you're after. You've got to have the ability to change. And I think that's one of the things that our industry, we try and tell people to change all the time. Like, oh, you don't like the house? Cool, just sell it. It's a big transaction, big move, but we're probably worst at taking our own advice. I know real estate agents are really good at buying property. They'll just chuck in cash unconditional offers and figure out the rest later. But when it comes to actually personal development and looking at it, long-term approach ourselves, I'd say we're the worst at it. Like, we're hypocritical in that regard.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for sharing that. And mate, in terms of current trends within the market, where do you see the market going over the next 1 year, 2 year, 5 years? Any sort of thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough to have worked through a few elections, which we've got coming up on 14th of October. A busy day in New Zealand, one, because it's my wedding anniversary, but two, because of the election. So we've got that coming up, and that pauses a bit of activity, and it's more market specific. So some markets transact differently around election times. So that's something to look out for if you're in a particular market. LVRs, that's going to be a campaigning issue. It already is. So is interest rates, OCRs, interest deductibility, these kind of things. So we've probably never had so many factors thrown at us and being controlled from a higher level than we do at the moment. And so, yeah, I think you've got to be aware of all the changes that could happen. We've got a lot of people saying they're going to wait till the election. My question is, what's going to change for you at the election? If one party's in or the other party's in, like what do you expect to change? Digital obviously is a massive thing. Like, we've never had so much power at our fingertips. Like, I remember waiting for a LIM report to see a flood zone and where the services were. And then we got the GIS viewer, which I had to rush back to the office to kind of look at, to, do the overlays. And now I can do it all while sitting at the traffic lights on my phone using Relab. And, like, there's lots of trends that are coming through. Like, there's, automation is a big one. Utilizing AI. I think everyone should probably have a VA, as a virtual assistant, to grow their business. I just interviewed 120 of them last weekend. One ad up online, 120 applicants. So, like, I think you're always got to be looking for little areas to create capacity within your own business, because ultimately we're all after the same thing, which is better balance. And so you've got to do a bit of an internal audit every now and then. And then try and just plug something in, virtual assistant, absentee data, Relab prospect, just so that you're prospecting better and more efficient with your time, having a structured week, having an ideal week, joining a gym, getting rid of the other gym membership, whatever it is, like there's little shifts that each agent listening to this can probably make to make the next 6 months of this year better. And so I like quotes, and, like, win the week, win a couple of weeks, win the month, win the months, win the year. Like, we've got 6 months left in this year. And I think if people make enough positive changes in the next 24 hours, they can really go about winning the rest of July, win July, flow into August, and it'll be amazing. And then you just get momentum from there.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. And I think that's really, it does come back to that accountability piece that you talked about at the start, taking accountability. If this isn't working, I have another option here. I can change this. Really owning your space, owning your goals, owning your targets. In previous webinars, we've talked a lot about targets and goals. And, if you're not hitting them, you do need to be really accountable for that. So it's nice that that's being reinforced there again. Look, we do have 2 more questions, and then we will do a bit of a Q&A. So for the audience out there, if you have got any burning questions, pop them in the chat now, and we'll get to them very shortly. So, Tom, you have talked a lot about personal development and networking. Do you have any specific suggestions or recommendations for networking tactics or professional development courses that you recommend for your team?
Yeah, face-to-face is the only way to network, I believe, and even if it is because of people's geographical locations, getting on a call like this where I can see you, I can see your reactions. But one of the things I did when I first started, I just wanted to get in front of as many people as I could. I knew that it takes about 30 minutes to drink a cup of coffee, so I'd always offer on the bottom of my letter that I'd send to people to buy them a coffee. I knew then that I had them trapped, basically, for 30 minutes. The time it takes to order the coffee, for them to bring the coffee out, and then to drink it. And yeah, a few people probably tried to scull their coffee a bit too much because they didn't want to, sit through for 30 minutes. But yeah, I used a cup of coffee as my time. And so I had 30 minutes to make an impression on someone. And it was surprising how many cups of coffee turned into 2. So we'd drink one coffee and I'd be so nervous. I remember one time I was in East Tamaki and had a cup of coffee with a guy who's turned into a lifelong friend now. And I was sweating away. Like I was just, I imagine this will resonate with a few of the people watching. I was just sweating and I sweated through my whole suit. And he goes, "Do you want another coffee?" And I was like, yep, of course I do. I didn't want to let this guy go, it was just a fascinating conversation. And an hour and a half later and a fully drenched suit, I couldn't go back to the office. I had to go home and change. But yeah, getting face to face, having conversations, listening. It's one of the most important tools would be listening. And I know you'll hear something and you just want to say something back to it straight away, but they're in the middle of something. And it's just parking that to one side, remembering it and bringing it back into the conversation later. And it's harder for different people. My wife's got ADHD. And so she'll hear something and wants to just poof straight back with it, but someone else is in the middle of what they're talking about, and so it's really hard to park and then come back in the right time. But getting face to face, it gives you a little bit more breathing room, and gives you a little bit more credibility as well. So, and people can see your reactions. We spend so much time, especially within our businesses, cold calling. And a cold call should only be 2 minutes and then straight into, I need to see you face to face to go over the rest of this. That's where the value's had. The best line I heard at Eric, conversion happens in conversation. So you need to get people in conversation with you and then you convert them.
Awesome. Conversation creates conversion. I like that. I like that a lot. Or was it conversion comes from conversation?
Conversions happens in conversation.
Conversions happen in conversation.
So, like every little social media post you do, you're just trying to create someone reaching out to you, and then you can communicate with them. You see it all the time. Like there's probably heaps of young people on here that have got Tinder, so they've got 3 photos up there and a quick little one-liner, and that's trying to create conversation, and then they can convert once in conversation.
Awesome. I love the example there. Look, one last question before we get into the Q&A, which I can already see. Thank you to the people putting their questions in the chat there. One piece of advice that you give to your team, or one thing that you want your team to be doing today that is going to directly impact their success next week, in a month's time, in a year's time.
Yep. So a few of the team are listening up. Have been talking about this since we did our goal setting in June. So we sit down, I listen to all of their goals that they want, and I know what they want to achieve. And I share my goals with them as well, so that they know what I want to achieve, which comes back to that transparency, and also giving them the ability to add value to me as much as I can add value to them. One thing, like if everyone in our business did it, would change the scope of our business, would be to work on a core area of business. And that can be geographical, or it could be working apartments instead of in townhouses, or lifestyle, or whatever, investment property versus first home buyer property, or working that street or this block. If we're just focused on something, you know what it's like, Jake. You go to the gym, so one day you're doing back, next day you're doing chest, next day you're doing legs, and every day we come into work, we're doing whatever comes at us, that's kind of real estate. We just come into work and just see what happens. And so just having a bit more focus around doing one thing, like today I'm training biceps and shoulders or whatever. Today I'm working at my farm area in this pocket of South Auckland. So if we just spent more time doing that, I said to one of our team the other day, you're like a guy running around in an orchard trying to pick low-hanging fruit. What I'd really like you to do is slow down, plant some trees, and just watch them grow, and all the fruit's yours. And hopefully he does that soon.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really like that. Coming back to that consistency piece, And again, we could even link in the accountability there. I know at Relab, our sales team here, we are very similar in the sense that every day we could be doing a completely different job. We've got people emailing, calling us all the time. There's always something different to do. And it's quite easy to get lost in the smoke and sort of not narrow down and stay on task at times. So we're very, very strict on that. Awesome. Cool. Well, look, we've got a few questions here from the audience. We're going to start with this question from Lily. So thank you, Lily. So what would you say to vendors who won't sign the contract when you've been negotiating for nearly 2 weeks and buyers have already come up 3 times? The gap is only $3,000.
Tough one, eh? Because he's put in so much effort into it, I'd imagine, to get to that stage to be $3,000 apart. I'd probably ask them what we could do to close the gap. You know, like if you were the buyer, so this is the vendor. Yeah, the vendor won't sign. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, you know, what would your suggestion be, you know, for me to go back to the buyers with when we're $3,000 apart? You know, what can you give me to work with? If they're just saying no, then there might be another reason why they're saying no. Like it might not be the $3,000, it might be the conditions or the settlement date or the buyer. But I'd just ask the vendor, you know, put it back on the vendor. Hey, look, you know, I'm trying my best for you. Can you just give me some, you know, anything to go back to the buyer with? I've had that before. It was a divorcing couple, the vendors, and a family buying the house, whose kids have all left home, and we're $3,000 apart. And I was banging my head against the wall like you will be, Lily. And I said to them, look, we're $3,000 apart. Like I can probably make this work if you're open to a suggestion. And they said, yeah, sure, Tom, what is that? And I said, well, you guys are divorcing. It's pretty hard to cut that spa pool in half. I'll pay you for the spa pool because mine just got stolen from my house, which is another story. I've got, you know, I need a spa pool. You've got one. You don't want it. It's not a chattel. You'd excluded it. I've checked with the buyer. They don't want it either. If I paid you for the spa pool, basically I'm bridging that $3,000 here. You're gonna have to come down $1,000 because the spa pool's only worth $2,000, and then we've got a done deal. How does that sound? And they're like, oh yeah, sweet. You gotta, you know, it's gonna be quite awkward for you to get the spa pool out. And we started changing the focus from the $3,000 to how do I get rid of the spa pool? So yeah, I think you got to drill into it a little bit, Lily, and see why they're being resistant at $3,000. We also treat $3,000 in real estate like it's nothing. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great answer there, Tom. Cool. Just quickly on this one, mate, from Brandon, what are you and your team using for virtual assistants? Or what do you use your virtual assistants for?
Mundane tasks. VAs are really good at stuff like repetitive tasks that we kind of get slack on. You know, I've done that 1,000 times, and so we don't do it the next time. So yeah, we use them for mundane tasks, cleaning data. Everyone that comes through an open home within our business, our VAs look them up and see if they own other property, which we can associate with them. So lots of little things, mate, that we do with VAs that add value to our team. We've also got them doing some, you know, administration and accounting tasks in the background. So we've got a team of VAs within our business. And then I personally got one on recently to help me with stuff. So I do a lot of administration type stuff as well, which I'm trying to pass that off so I can focus on more dollar productive stuff for me.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Thank you, Tom. And question here from Leah, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Tough one. I could bring up my 5-year goals and I could tell you what I've achieved in the next 5 years because I do 1, 3, and 5-year goals. In 5 years' time, I'll probably be in the same house because my wife doesn't want to move, even though I do. My kids will both be at school. Freddie will be 8. Jagger will be 8. Freddie will be 10. I would have taken them to Disneyland. I will have a few more rental properties. I'd probably have a couple more branches. We'd be pushing on 200 plus staff. Yeah, my hair will probably be completely gone. I won't be in the same car that I'm driving now because I seem to change them all the time. Hopefully I can fit the same suits. Yeah, but I think pretty much in the same same position because I love what I do now, but I would have achieved so much more. So where do I see myself? Probably in the same spot, because I'm really, really happy here. But what I will have achieved in the next 5 years probably is a different question.
Awesome. I really like that, Tom. That's awesome. You've got clear goals, but you're also going with the flow a bit and seeing what happens, which is great. Look, we're going to move on to the Fast Five. We are out of time, so we're going to rip through this. There was a question there from Rob asking about when you're going to debut on Rich Listers, but I think I'll let you guys take that conversation offline. Seems like it's quite personal, that one.
Yeah.
So, look, Fast Five, our final quick 5 questions to finish on. You got 10 seconds to answer each. Here we go. Number 1. What is your favorite local restaurant?
Burger Fuel.
Burger Fuel, perfect. What did you want to be when you grew up?
A policeman.
Policeman, awesome. Number 3, what is the one thing you were most proud of?
My kids.
Kids, awesome. Hopefully his wife's watching, she saw that. And number 4, what is the one skill you wish you had?
Speaking many languages.
Awesome. And number 5, last one here. Who's the person you admire the most?
This guy up here, I don't know if many of you guys will know who that is. It's Willie Apiata. I think he has done amazing things. Probably done some not so amazing things as well, but pretty incredible guy. But Richie McCaw and John Key. So it's 3 people, unfortunately. Sorry for that one. But yeah, Richie McCaw, we all know who he is and what he's done, and just being able to turn up every single day and be the best in the world, like the ultimate GOAT. And then John Key, I think, was probably underrated for what he had done. And we've probably seen a path of destruction. Some will say it's because of him. Some will say it's post him. But yeah, I think there's a couple of guys there that I fully respect in that regard.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Cool. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today. Great conversation. Really enjoyed it, Tom. The recording will be sent out to everyone as well in case there were bits of it you want to rewatch. And enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thanks for having me, and thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Thank you, team. Cheers.